left and the right, yeah. Just got to adjust this camera. Yeah, morning everyone. Sorry about this, I just got to adjust this camera. I do. Yeah, I just got a message this morning off Sam at Yummy Bee TV. Quite a motivational little message, so I just want to give a quick shout out to Sam there. Hope you're well, mate. And the story I'm going to do this morning, I'm quite relaxed this morning, and I'm just going to chill out and see how this story goes. But I'm going to go back to Deptford, to when I was living there when I was a kid, which was between 1986 and 89, I think it was. So I was there for about 3 years when I was a teenager. I was on a lot of drugs then, amphetamines mainly, and heroin, were the main things I was on, and a lot of other stuff as well, like Valium tablets, benzos, and I used to do all sorts of pills, opiate pills, Palfium, peach Palfium, all that sort of stuff, But yeah, the story I was going to do is this one time, I've been in Feltham a couple of times, but this time I ended up in Feltham, and it was I had some sort of a warrant out, and I was there for about a month. I think it was only a month or 6 weeks, and I think the warrant might have only been for fines or something, because back then if you had financial penalties outstanding and you couldn't pay, obviously you'd go to prison for it. I don't know if they still do that now. I know they do for big amounts of money, but back then, what I owed then, if it was fines, it would have only been like £1,000 or something at the most, or a couple of thousand, not a lot, so yeah, let's get this story underway. So back then, yeah, I was living on Pepys Estate in this flat. Like I've said before, I ended up on Pepys Estate because I had a bed sit in Plumstead originally. I was housed in Plumstead by Sutton, London Borough of Sutton, when I was sort of, didn't have nowhere to live when I was 16. They put me over in Plumstead there, but I was thrown out of that gaff in Benares Road, Plumstead it was, because, well, what happened, I'll tell you quickly what happened there. The reason I was thrown out is because there was a guy, because they were like bed sits in this house. It was a house divided up into bed sits, and this guy that lived there, well, I didn't know it was him at the time. I was cooking food, because it was a shared kitchen, and cooking food, preparing it and all that, making myself some nice food and putting it in the fridge and the freezer, for later or whatever. And I didn't have a lot of money then, because like I say, I was 16, so I was pretty skint, and my food kept going missing, So I was in the kitchen talking about this with another guy that lived there, whose name was Kai. He had another place as well on Thamesmead Estate, and I used to go down to his flat in Thamesmead to get hash, black hash, if you remember the squidgy back then, and these other things called smiley mushrooms. I don't know if you remember those things. They were like little yellow and blue tablets, and they had like a little smile engraved on them, and like a little half mushroom shape, and they were known as smiley mushrooms. They was around a lot in the 80s, and they were actually called something called Pemeline, and they were sort of like an amphetamine type thing, they was. So yeah, I was in the kitchen and we was talking about this. My mate Kai, he was an African guy, and he was giving me some chicken and rice because I was telling him that my food's gone missing again, and he told me who'd been doing it, so obviously I think I used to drink a bit then, I think I was drinking Tennants and stuff like that, as well as smoking dope and whatever else. So, and I had a girlfriend who was from Sutton. I think I was with Lisa then still, and she was coming over there to visit me. And what happened was, after he told me what had happened, I got the right ump, and basically went down to his room and knocked on the door, to have it out with him about nicking my food and that. But no one answered, so I kicked his door off thinking he was in there, all angry and that, and I was going to fight him over it, but there was no one in there, you know, so the landlord turned up over this. One of the other residents called the landlord and that. No police was called. And then he said, oh, I had to leave, you know, so that's how I ended up living, moving from there to a flat on Pepys Estate in Pelican House, which is right by Bowditch on the estate there, which is a little road that runs right up to the River Thames. So when I was there, I was getting visitors there from over in Sutton, where I'm from originally, Carshalton over that way. They was coming up to visit me and stuff like that, you know. And one of them was a guy called Peter, you know, and he started staying at my place there and that, and he was about 10 years older than me, and I've got a lot of stories about this guy, and some of them are quite funny, but yeah, we used to go out drinking well, we used to go mainly to this pub called the Dewdrop Inn, which is there by Feltham Park there, you know, just behind New Cross Station, and the Amersham Arms we used to go in, which is on the you know, on the main road there on the A2, and you know, we used to go in a few pubs there because, you know, we used to go in a pub selling a bit of speed and that, you know, we used to buy ounces or, you know, 9 bars of sulphate, you know, and do it all into grams and sell it in the pubs and stuff and the clubs. Another place we went to, which is quite near, quite a lot actually, was the Harp Club. It was called then. It used to, after that it changed its name to the Venue. Or it was the Venue, and the Harp Club was upstairs, you know, had different floors for different types of music and that. You know, so yeah, we used to go to quite a lot of places. And the main one we used to go to was the Dewdrop, and the landlady then was a lady called Mary, you know, and there's a lot of drugs in that pub and all that sort of stuff, you know, and what happened was a guy we was used to see on Pepys Estate called Richie, who lived in the tower block, one of the tower blocks there, Dalbany Tower I think he lived in. He got sent to prison for supplying amphetamines, and I think he got 4 years, you know, and he was in Brixton and that. And Peter, he got all paranoid about all this, you know, because he was doing speed, selling speed and all that sort of thing. And he moved from my flat to Finsbury Park in North London, you know. And a little bit later, I moved from my flat in Pelican House over to where he was in Finsbury Park there, you know, near Hornsey Rise. And yeah, hold on, I'm just going to have a sip of coffee. So what he did, he moved over there, and, you know, he carried on doing a bit of dealing, you know, selling the whiz, acid, white lightning acid, the sulphate, obviously, yeah, and hashish, you know, and people used to come over from Surrey, you know, to buy stuff off us, or sometimes I'd run it over on the tube and the trains to Surrey and South London, from North London or down to Brighton even, you know. But this one time we was out in this geezer who was a taxi driver, I can't remember his name, he was giving us a lift to Stoke Newington is where he was going, because I had a girlfriend. By this time I wasn't with Lisa anymore, I was with Claudine, this girl from North London, Claudine, really nice girl, and we was going to visit her in Stoke Newington. She was living over there, and we was going with this guy who used to buy speed off us. He was a taxi driver, and he was giving us a lift in his taxi. So he's gone from Finsbury Park, from where we was, in his taxi, going over towards Stoke Newington. We was going down Green Lanes there, and we all of a sudden, you know, there's sirens everywhere, and we're getting a tug, we're getting pulled over, you know, by the old bill and that. And basically they stopped the car and that. I was in the back, Pete was in the front, and the driver was there. And they got him out of the car, you know, pulled him out of the car, and then I see, you know, they took him a few yards away, but I see him take the cash out of his pocket. You know, he had a few hundred there, like a wad of cash, and I see him take that off him, and I didn't see him give it back, you know, and I thought, oh, here we go. But I knew that in the front, like on the seat in the car, he'd left a bag there, you know, and it had like loads of whiz in it, loads of acid, puff, quite a lot actually. There were, you know, a lot. If we'd been caught with it, you know, it would have been quite a bit of bird because it was all done up in like grams and all that, you know, and there was a few ounces there and, you know, like a few hundred trips, you know, a few ounces of puff. So yeah, would have been pretty fucked really. So basically, while he was out getting questioned by this copper who was a plain clothes copper, you know, there was another one coming up saying to me to get out of the car. You know, he was just coming up to the door, but as I was getting out of the car, what I'd done, I grabbed this little green holder it was, with all the gear in it, grabbed it, and just legged it right across Green Lanes. And if you know Green Lanes, it's like a motorway, it's a really busy road. So basically, I was dodging in and out of traffic to get to the other side, you know. I wasn't sure where I was going. I just wanted to get to the other side so I could sling all the gear away to throw it away and that. And basically, yeah, I've got to the other side and the copper's chasing me across the road, but I've got to the other side of Green Lanes and there's like a convent there. Well, there was then, I don't know if it's still there now, and it was quite dark there and it was all trees and darkness, you know, and you couldn't see into there. So once I got onto that bit, I threw the bag with all the drugs in it into this convent where all the nuns lived and all that, you know. And then the next thing I know, just as I've thrown it, I got rugby tackled, you know. And then I wasn't saying anything. The cop was going, "What you running for? What you running for?" And I was just going like, you know, thinking, well, I'm not going to say anything, but you know. And he's steaming into me a bit, you know, giving me a few digs and all that, you know. And then he's bent me up and cuffed me up and all that and standing me up, saying he's out of breath. He's nearly got run over as well, and he's giving it all that, what you running for? And I was giving it then. I'd calm down for a few seconds, saying, well, not running for anything. And he goes, right. And the next thing I know, he's doing a CRO as he's walking me across the road in handcuffs, you know. I was cuffed behind my back. You know, he's walking, you know how they walk here, holding your arm as you're cuffed. So walking back across Green Lanes to where the car is. This car was one of these old Peugeot 305 things or something, right old thing. And when we got back over to the other side, there's a meat wagon's turned up already. And he said, right, I'm going to CRO you. But I did notice the other two had already been gone and taken off. Peter's been taken off in a unmarked car to, I don't know which police station it was, but a different one from the one I went to. And the other guy was taken somewhere else, and I don't know where or what happened in their interviews and that. But basically, when he's doing the CRO, he said, I gave him a name and all that. I gave him the right name and that, you know, because I didn't think I had any warrants out or anything like that. And he said, you got a warrant, a no bail warrant. You got to go and serve 30 days in, you know, you're going to prison and that. You know, and he said, so I said, well, yeah, where will I be going and that? And he said, you'll be going to Feltham. So basically what happened, I was in custody that night, and then I went straight to prison in the morning, no court or nothing, because it was a sentence that had already been dished out, you know, which I had actually forgotten about, funnily enough, because I was taking that much drugs. I used to forget about stuff all the time and not turn up for court, you know. So, yeah, basically I ended up in Feltham. And I remember when I was going through reception there, you know, because it was prison clothes then, and obviously I was convicted. And you get your clothing and all that. And I see the guy who was, it was red bands then, you know, they had a red armband if they were trustees. And the guy that was working behind the counter there, behind the jump, giving out the prison kit, like the shirts and the jeans and that, I recognised him from a few months before when I was still living in Deptford. So I remember I'd been going to buy a couple of bags or a £20 bag up Kinglake Street, I think it was then, yeah. Because back in '88, the main front line in South East London or South London for heroin was the Old Kent Road, you know. Everyone used to go up to the laundrette there and score in there, and there'd all be people walking around asking if you wanted anything and all that sort of stuff, you know, and that's where I was going. And that one time, a few months ago, I'd been to score and I was waiting in the flats there on Kinglake, you know, with these two guys, and I see someone who was selling, but that I'd given them the money for some reason. I'd let them go to someone and they'd run off with the money, you know. So, yeah, I saw the geezer again behind the counter in Feltham, and I thought to myself, yeah, I'm going to get that cunt, you know, when I see him on the wing and all that. But for starters, he recognised me, so he's given me a shirt to wear, you know, for my prison issue kit. And the shirt he's given me, it had no buttons on and all that, you know. So I started moaning about that, and, you know, it nearly kicked off. But I did get another one. And then I was on the wing, I think I was on Kestrel wing. Yeah, but if I remember rightly, that whole month, I don't even think I had exercise. For the whole month, I think I was banged up, literally 23 hours of the whole time, every day. I remember I used to just look out the window all the time and reading books and stuff like that. I mean, there in Feltham, I was on Kestrel. When I look out my cell window there, you could see birds walking around. There was all like peacocks walking around there, you know, when you looked outside yourself. So yeah, it was pretty weird. But it was quite new back then, Feltham. So yeah, and yeah, there's not much more I can say about it really, because like I say, all I remember is being banged up all the time for 23 hours a day, you know, and a bit of exercise, and that was it really. And eating your dinner, you could eat your dinner in your cell or eat it down there on the dining tables, which were all sort of like bolted to the floor and stuff like that. If I remember rightly, it was a triangular sort of shape, or you know, that sort of shape. But yeah, I've only been to Feltham twice, but it was a long time ago. So yeah, but the guy I was just talking about, Pete Marsh, he died about 10 years ago. Now, yeah, he died of cancer, but I'm pretty sure that was brought on by his excessive drug addictions and stuff like that. You know, because he was a drug addict his whole life. But yeah, so when I come out from that month, and I went back to the flat in Finsbury Park, he wasn't there anymore. So I phoned someone up to ask where he was, and I found out he'd moved back to South London, and he'd moved to he'd got some sort of bedsit in Crystal Palace Road there, you know, in Dulwich. And I was speaking to someone, and I went round there. I got the address, and I went and paid him a visit and that, you know. And when I got round there, I had a few bags of gear on me, you know, which I think I had to sell some of them. A few bags of brown, and he was there, and he was skinting on his arse and that, you know. And I did have a little bit of the hump with him because I'd been to jail and I'd never heard from him, and nothing seemed to happen to him, and it was all his gear, you know, and I'd sort of saved the day and that for him, saved him quite a big bit of bird. But yeah, when I got round there was another lady living there, and she's still alive, a lady that I've known most of my life called Sylvia. And I saw Sylvia. He was living on the ground floor, and she was living in a basement sort of flat down the stairs directly underneath him. And when I told him I had this gear but I needed the money, and he said, "Oh, I'm a bit sick and all that. Can you sort me out and that?" And I was sort of like, "Not really, mate. I can later, but I need a bit of money and that, you know." Probably I was being a little bit funny and that. And I said, "How's Sylvia doing and that?" And then just as I was saying that, she popped her head in and she said, "Oh, I wouldn't mind, I'll buy a bag of gear off you, Sean, and that." And I said, "Yeah, all right, I'll sort it out in a minute, you know. I'm just going to have this chat with Peter and that, you know." So I was chatting away to Peter and that. And then I'm sorting this bag out, I'm making up this bag. And he says, "I'll tell you what, Sean, I know you got to go and that. I'll give this to Sylvia." And it was a £20 bag, if I remember rightly. And I said, "Yeah, all right, then you do that. I've got to go." So I give him the bag to give to Sylvia. And then I found this out later from her. But the time, so when he's gone down like a little flight of stairs with a £20 bag, by the time he's got to her door, he's nicked most of it. So by the time she'd got it, there was hardly anything left. and she thought I'd ripped her off, but it weren't. It was Peter just dipping the bag, you know. But funny little story there though. But yeah, he was all right, Peter. I have a lot of memories about that guy and that. But yeah, all right, guys, that's 20 minutes. So I'm gonna leave it there, you know, and just a quick hello, and I hope you all have a nice day, guys. Thanks.